All right, here we are back again with some more videos. This is day 7. Well, I should say, anyway. Hey everybody, welcome back. This is day 7 of the 30-day world building challenge. I'm using some resources online to make a video every day documenting the process of building a tabletop RPG for Dungeons & Dragons, or just kind of a generic fantasy setting. I don't know what I'm going to use it for just yet. My world is called Endigar, and it's been a lot of fun. Today, we are diving into 2 things. I had to get my phone because I totally forgot what we were doing today, but how many adventurers are in the world? How prevalent are they? And what is the recent history? Let's dive in.
And so we are here today is, it's going to be interesting because I don't actually have it mapped out. And we'll see how this works out. That's the whole point of the exercise. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to 30 Days of World Building. Today we're going to talk about the recent history and how common are adventurers and heroes in your world. And I want to start with this one, how common. And this is going to be short and sweet, but basically not very. There have been a few people that are celebrated as heroes. They, although being real people, in my view, are still looked at mythically. Like, wow, you were able to do this. So these are like, I don't know, you just don't have a lot of people that either A, have the resources or what have you to become great heroes. Or not enough magic or not enough talent or something like that. Because I want to allow the players to be special. And so part of the character creation process is, and this is just a fleeting thought, but I wanted to have like a zodiac or something, and like maybe they were born under a special star or blessed by the gods in some way as devices to take over, or not take over, sorry. Devices to free the world of the tyranny that is all of these like warlock pact keeper things. Quadrivium. I don't have that completely planned out yet, but to answer this question, there are not many heroes in the world. Or maybe it's like every, I don't know, maybe it's a Buffy thing. Like one girl in a generation becomes the Slayer. And so you have these 5 party members show up in this one generation and they are able to do all of this. That could be, and maybe they're reincarnated from past ones. I don't know. But heroes are not very common, and that is intentional to allow the players to feel even more special. And hopefully they want to do good. Endigar is very much you want to save the people you care about, your family or your tribe, your nation, maybe just the planet itself. So, over there on we're on day 7 of the Fantasy World Builder Guide, 30 Days to a World. And today we're talking about recent history. And it says like, hey, if you don't have long languages or naming, don't worry about that because we're going to do that tomorrow. But by now we should have a geography, a map, and a general sense of the people and the land. So this is a longer one, and we want to talk about like what are the major historical events of the last 100 years before your novel begins, and by novel, my campaign setting. Now, Eberron did a really good job of this because not all, but like Eberron is pushing you to play 2 years after the war. So we had this 100-year war, it ended. 2 years later, that's when your Eberron game picks up, where the Warforged are still not really understood. The Day of Mourning is still completely like, what? And we don't have a solidified government like they used to and things like that. So that's a great example of using this to say, we're going to play in the year 102. Because we're going to start our, the BC AD of our campaign is this great war that lasted 100 years. And you're going to play 2 years after that. Now, I'm sure there's people that have played years before, years later, but that is not like other campaign settings like the Forgotten Realms where this just keeps going and arguably has some problems. So I like this approach. And I want to have like, you're playing not right after, but like you're playing in a game that has this as a backdrop, not an evolving backdrop that keeps going, because now we have, I mean, how many adventures? Like the Demons of the Abyss tried to destroy everything, and that was going alongside with some Death Curse, and there were also like giants fighting each other. Like there's so many things that were packed into like 2 to 3 years of Forgotten Realms, but that is for another video and another topic of discussion. So we want to outline some major historical events, and I have not thought of this. So while we go through this, I might, do the fast forward approach, and so we don't have, you don't just see me writing for a long amount of time, and then we'll talk about them. But I'm going to write down some of these. So dates when power shifted in civilization, whether the power shift was smooth, blah, blah, blah. Dates when a natural event reduced or increased the amount of natural resources. Okay. Dates when an unnatural event, such as magical or technological, the last dates to write on your timeline, date your novel begins, and the date your character was born. That's really good. So we need a calendar. We'll say a year is a year, because that helps anchor our fantasy world in the minds of the players. But yeah, so I made a new page here. We're gonna go over here. This is brand new Notion page that I made, and I'm gonna write down some things like major. We'll say not difficult, but just I'm not entirely sure how to do this just yet, but I'm excited. So major events and minor events, we'll make them. Something that I haven't talked about yet is the start of the Quadrivium. So the Quadrivium. Now let's go look at the Quadrivium. Quadrivium is the name of the 4 demigods that control Endegar. They were handed power from their patrons, and they are subjugating others to create worship for their patrons. So the patrons exist on that astral plane, and the patrons, these fiends or celestials or all these things, they can't break above Hyperborea, or maybe they can go to Hyperborea, but they'll never be able to go to the land of the gods. So there's an underlying theme that patrons like Asmodeus or Golgoroth or these Baphomet, any demon or anything like that they are trying to get people to worship them rather than the gods so that they can ascend. And it's this idea of like, well, if I just have worshipers, that must be where the magic is. Now, in a lot of other fantasy settings, gods get power from their worshipers, and worshipers get power from their gods, and it's kind of it's just a nice relationship between the two. And actually, I like that. I like that if I worship a deity, like their prayer powers come from just all the people that offer up prayers to them. And that's something that I've enjoyed about Forgotten Realms and other settings. And I viewed a lot of gods like that. But I think in Endegar, that is not the case. But I think the patrons, the fiends and celestials and the fey creatures and the far realm creatures, I think they have a twisted sense that like, this is how you get godly powers. And so in a way, they're the main villain, like if you're going to go on a cosmic scale, that's like, you got to take down Asmodeus for trying to become a god. Or maybe he's trying to find a different way to become a god, things like that. So we did have somebody in the comments say, Jordan, you mentioned Asmodeus a lot. Are you going to use D&D like things in your game? And the answer is like, yes, no. Yes, I want it to be a D&D campaign setting, but no, I'm not going to use D&D gods and things like that. Creatures like Asmodeus are public domain, and the idea of Asmodeus is in mythology, and I'm pulling a lot of this stuff from various mythologies that I enjoy, And if you go to the, world building resources, there is a really cool book called the Encyclopedia of Demons and Demonology. And this was a good book. I got a PDF copy of this, and I have been flipping through it. In fact, I can show you. So here we are, the Encyclopedia of Demons and Demonology. This is not this is a nightmare. This is a really cool painting. So this is not a weird, evil, cultish book, even though it has, hey, it's an encyclopedia, but throughout mythology and Christianity, just all these religions and what have you, there are named demons and named devils and things like that. And this book was pulling them and then did a history breakdown of like, oh, these are all the places Beelzebub, the name Beelzebub, has shown up, or these are all the places this. And it was at this point in Christianity that they took that and it became a big evil thing. Case in point, we were talking yesterday about the Fates and the Three Sisters and the Furies. And the Furies, once Christianity got a hold of that, the Furies became evil and were painted with bat-like wings and things like that. But they weren't necessarily, like, they were deities in another story. So I wanted to know where a lot of those come from, and that's why this book was so useful. If we jump over here to, I think I can find Asmodeus. Yeah, so his chief objectives are to prevent intercourse between husband and wife, wreck marriages, things like that. So in Christianity, Asmodeus is the demon of lust, and there are the 7 deadly sins, and each of these demons represent one of those. But the D&D Asmodeus is very different from this, which I think will also be very different from mine. But I can use this, and it's a recognizable name. And I think same with Orcus. I can use Orcus as well. And Orcus is in my game, but he is not. He is also a power. So here's a nice picture of Asmodeus. So it's cool. This is a really useful book. Back to the recent 100 years, the Quadrivium is what we were talking about. So the Quadrivium is these 4 creatures that were handed power to control Endigar, to convert people. I want to go to villains. And so this is our first villain, Dominica Vinicius, and she made a pact with Asmodeus for magical powers. So our Quadrivium is going to be her. It's going to be, which is like a pact of the fiend. This is sincere. I should learn how to pronounce my own characters, but I made them with Latin, and I am not good at pronouncing things. Just there, case in point. So Sincere Astus, he's going to be a lich, but he is a warlock that made a pact with Orcus, the god of death. So he has mastery over the domain of death. Over here we have the King in Yellow. That is a Cthulhu reference, and his patron is Golgoroth, which is but let's do that. Yeah, he's kind of like a frog-looking creature. But this is from a Lovecraft wiki, and Lovecraft came up with it, and his stuff is now public domain, so that's why you see a lot of Lovecraftian things in games like this. Oh, I should talk about the last two. Last one would be Modea, and she is a fey creature that made a pact with Baba Yaga. So Asmodeus, Golgoroth, Orcus, and Baba Yaga are using these people to try and ascend to godhood. And together, these 4, who are now demigods, are the Quadrivium. So recent history, the start of the Quadrivium, and that's going to be when, and I'm going to say that's year 0. Dominica kind of took the prime material plane. She stayed here. Our lich villain here, he went to the Shadowfell, or he went to a darker reflection of the world to meditate on his power and kind of control that realm. And maybe he invented it or discovered it. I think he discovered it, but I don't think a lot of people knew about the Shadowfell. And I probably won't call it the Shadowfell. I'll probably, the Plane of Shadow or the Dark Reflection or something like that. Golgoroth here is or the King in Yellow is going to be, he explored a realm with his new powers that was below the ethereal. And when we go deeper into the ethereal, if you go too deep, you slip and fall into the far realm. And that is where his patron is from, is in the far realm. So the far realm is kind of separate from our mythology that we were doing ever, our cosmic mythology of the astral sea and the astral plane. And it's always kind of been like that. The far realm's just always like, I don't know, and then there's a far realm. So I like that idea of like, if you go too deep into the ethereal, it gets real dark and real weird and creepy. And there's something there. We don't really know what. And I'll look into some more mythology about that. And then finally, Modea is part of the Feywild. And I think the elves come and go from the Feywild consistently, maybe? I'm not sure. But elves are from the Feywild, and Modea here is an elf, or if you want to use other things like a high elf or an Eladrin elf or something like that, who made a pact with Baba Yaga to take over then the Feywild. So all of these creatures are they're present in the prime material plane. Dominica is the only one that has like a big flying fortress. But when you go to the plane of shadow, Sincerestus here has a fortress there. The far realm is its own crazy thing, but Modea would definitely have some kind of temple or something to herself, to Baba Yaga in the Feywild. But for the most part right now, we're going to just focus on Dominica here. So that is year 0, the start of the Quadrivium, where these four got together, they made a pact with each other, and then they split apart into their 4 areas. Okay, so I went through, not super quickly, but I still don't know what I want to do for a year, but we're going to start with 0 is the start of the Quadrivium, and then they basically are getting powers and kind of understanding what's happening. 112, the Quadrivium starts fighting with one another, believing themselves and their patrons to be better than all others. The fight is on a neutral area of the astral plane. Dominica fought with her fiends. Sinceritas fought with his undead army. And Modea fought with fey creatures. Demonidas did not participate, and some say he knew the future and he knew that he would not be ready. But that's, I don't know, I was just throwing in some lore. The battle on the astral plane left a great scar, which turned into a location that I want to use later that I don't know what I'm going to do yet. But no one won. Everyone kind of went back to their respective location, their realms, their planes. But Dominica starts taking over parts of Endegar in the future. So she's now building up an empire on the prime material plane, not really worship. Well, we should say, I think I'll put this here. We'll add another one. We'll say in 156, Dominica appears in Endegar. And then Dominica takes over parts of Endegar and cages magic users. She forces them to craft magical weapons and armor. Magic users are hunted because we can use them and their spirit and their magic and their energy to actually make weapons that will help her in what she believes is a coming battle with the other 3 of the Quadrivium. And she also makes worshiping the gods outlawed because hypothetically that will make her more powerful if nobody's worshiping the gods and Asmodeus is more powerful. Then in I don't think I need that apostrophe. And then in 201, Dominica assaults the dwarves and Luz, and that's King Bowler Arsmith. And maybe that should be earlier. I'm not really sure. And then 202, Dominica assaults the elves who mostly retreat back into the Fey realm. 243, Dominica receives a blessing from her patron, a giant floating tetrahedron known as Court Pyramus. Court Pyramus is a mystery still. I don't know if this is actually a blessing, if it was created by magic, or if this is something she maybe secretly worked on for a while. Maybe that's why she was trying to get to the dwarves. I don't know. And then 248 is the current year. So this is more than 100 years, but I wanted to outline all of the major events. And then minor events will go from 248 or 148, or we'll say we'll say, 140 to 248. So with the minor events, I'm going to have to work on this tomorrow because it's just getting late. But with the minor events, I think this needs to be the small quibbles that people have, and how she actually gained power. Like in 158, what happened? She appeared in Endigar, but then 178, she took over parts of Endigar. And I want to write down, like, how did she do that, maybe? I need to figure out for myself, I think. And so I'll have to look at my map and locate some things again. So we have this. I will figure out this later or tomorrow, and then we'll talk about it tomorrow in conjunction with what we're going to work on, which actually would be great because tomorrow we're going to work on the names of locations of places and things like that. So that will tie into this, and I'll be able to explain the minor events with this group came here and this did this, and I think that'll work out. Just a few updates before we leave. I did make a new Discord. I wanted to kind of combine all of the things that I'm working on into one Discord rather than the 4 different servers that I was trying to take care of. So if you are interested, there is a link in the description below. Please join the Jordan Jocular Junction. And from there, there's an Endigar channel, and you can ask me questions, and we can kind of hammer out some ideas and stuff about Endigar, and I think it'll be cool. If you're also a fan of the Saturday Morning D&D show, there's a channel there and things like that. So, yeah, check it out. It should be fun. And then, from there, we're going to keep doing this for the month of December. I did, if you're watching this all the way to the end, you clearly are enjoying the content and you want to keep enjoying the content. I do know that this is very different from the other stuff I have made on my channel before. And so thank you for you people that are sticking with the new stuff. But I also want to assure people that when the month of December is over, I am returning back to lore content. And I want to do the traditional videos that I've been doing in the past. After almost 4 years of the YouTube channel with the D&D lore, I just wanted to try something new and be excited about something again. And so that's why I'm doing this. And I hope you guys can understand that. If it's not your cup of tea, I understand. We'll be back in January with awesome lore stuff again. So stay tuned. Thanks again, everybody. I will see you tomorrow. I always want to say next week, but it's tomorrow. I will literally see you tomorrow. Okay, bye, everybody.